Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question. He basically wants to know if it's okay for him to do heavy dips as a primary exercise several times a week, like 2 or 3 times a week, just like the push press. Now he said his reasons are that he wants to use it to replace the bench press in a program, and the reason for that is because bench press seems to hurt his shoulders, but dips feel perfectly fine. So let me put on my +5 head of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. At a fundamental level, I would say yes, there are some things that we need to consider when doing this, but fundamentally speaking, in a program, if you can perform the dips safely, can it replace the bench press? And can it be trained at a high frequency with like an exercise like the push press? Because you guys know I do various forms of push press up to 5 times a week myself these days. No real problems from that, and I'm even losing weight right now. So I'm getting away with that as an old dude. So the real question becomes, can it replace the bench press itself as an exercise? And that question is multifold in nature. Number one, you have to factor in, do you compete in anything where the bench press itself is going to be important? Meaning, are you a high school football player who's going to be tested on the bench press later? And as crazy as that sounds, there are exercises that different athletes will be tested on, and it will determine how they place in things. So if you're going to play American football, for example, you need to note that there are several exercises that your strength is going to be tested on as you try to progress into that career. Both for scholarship purposes and definitely if you try to go professional. The combine test will test this. So if you play, say, American football and you're going to be tested on the bench press, you have to do the bench press. You're going to have to learn to get good at it. It's going to help you for testing purposes. And obviously if you compete in powerlifting, that's one of your competitive lifts. Outside of that, is the bench press really essential for people who want to be big or strong? No, it's not necessary. It's a great exercise. And I did a video the other day explaining that it isn't even an overrated exercise like some people try to make it out to be, but it isn't an essential exercise. And in some ways, we could argue that the dip is a superior exercise in certain ways. First you need to ask, though, do you get tested on it in any way, or do you have to compete with the exercise? If the answer is no, then okay. Possibly yes. The next thing you've got to factor in is going to be, can you perform it safely? And that's the biggest issue we run into. Some people are not made to perform the dip. Some people get sternum fractures from doing the dip, and I've said that, and some people have said, no, that's not true, I've never heard of that. And I've had multiple people come into my videos where I've said that and said that they got a sternum fracture while doing dips. It actually does happen. If you're one of those people that your chest, you ever feel a popping in the center of your chest, or the center of your chest you feel sharp pain in it at all when you do the dip, you need to be very, very, very careful of this exercise. The other thing that you've got to factor in is assessing your fatigue on the dip is a little more important than on the bench press. Because if you know how to bench press correctly, the worst thing that's going to happen is you do a roll of shame. Meaning people say, well, you could drop a barbell on your throat. No, you can't. If it's possible for you to drop a barbell on your throat, you don't know how to bench press, right? The way that you set up in the bench should prevent that from happening. Your bar pass should prevent that from happening. If it does, you need to have someone teach you how to perform the exercise. You've never been taught how to bench press correctly. The bar should never be able to do that. So worst case, it falls on you. You end up needing to roll it down. And I know some people would say, well, that sounds pretty bad. Yeah, it is. But on a dip, failing a rep on a heavy-weighted dip, because on dips your body is capable of forcing you into a longer range of motion that's anatomically correct, it is an exercise that the full range of motion on the exercise can compromise the joints. It's one of the few exercises that can do that. So you need to be careful of that, and you have to learn your sweet spot on how low that you can go to still get good stimulation in the target muscles while not overextending your shoulder at the bottom. And the reason for it is that you have almost unlimited range of motion because there's nothing to stop. Meaning, at least with dumbbells, if you're coming down even in a proper grip, your body's going to stop the dumbbells. With a barbell, your chest is going to stop the barbell. You can only physically go so low. And that's generally a safe range of motion. On the dip, you can go lower. So your fatigue management and having a plan in place to avoid getting injured when performing a dip is actually really important. You need to be aware of where your feet can go. so that you can stop yourself at the bottom on any of the dipping stations. You need to pay attention to being very careful about failing reps, because again, a failed rep on the dip, if you don't catch yourself right at the bottom, could lead to an injury. It could lead to damaged rotator cuff. So it is something you need to be aware of. It is absolutely something to be aware of, the risk factors. But from a total development potential, it is arguable that the weighted dip might be slightly superior to the bench press. Again, that's a statement that some people don't want to hear, just because, again, they love the bench press, and that's understandable. People have exercises that they love. The bench press is a very popular exercise, and for good reason. It's not arbitrary that it's a popular exercise, as much as people might want to make that seem that way. It really isn't. But the issue with the dip is that, like I covered in that video the other day, I had it titled, if move exercises that move your body through space, do they have a superior training response? There has been some data over the years that would suggest that yes, they do. All right. The Russians had a lot of data on this back during the Cold War, for example. They learned that exercises that move your body through space seem to elicit a slightly different training response. Now, we could argue all day long as to whether that's some sort of difference in the shift in hormones due to moving yourself against gravity along with weight versus just moving a weight against gravity while keeping your torso stationary. Or if it has to do with stabilizers in the body, additional stabilizers, or the combination. But we do know that when various stabilizers are used, more stabilizers are used, you generally get better overall development, better overall hypertrophy, because more muscles get involved. And usually anytime you're trying to get bigger, too many people get caught up in this idea, and this is kind of bodybuilder fluff, that isolating a muscle is the fastest way to get bigger. No, that's the fastest way to bring that muscle up if it happens to be lagging. If you have two muscles that you want to grow, you need to work those two muscles as much as possible in any exercise you do. And because there are extra stabilizers involved, you have more muscles that get involved. You have more overall growth potential due to more muscles being involved, even though the primary movers would be the pectorals, the triceps, the anterior deltoids, a lot of stabilizers involved. And there is a cumulative effect through the body and different muscles getting secondary work on exercises. It does help. It's better for overall development. Furthermore, when you're talking about building actual strength, and I don't mean the strength of one muscle, I mean strength of using your body as one unit, using your body together, exercises that, again, move your body through space or use a lot of stabilizers or force you to use more muscles in your body together to do powerful movements, those tend to translate better into overall athleticism. So again, if your goals from this exercise or any exercise are to improve your overall athleticism or just your overall muscular development and strength, exercises like this, like a weighted dip, have a lot of merit. That makes them in some ways potentially superior to the bench press for those goals. Now, doing the bench press will make you better at doing the bench press than a dip will. But it's not to say it's not a good secondary exercise to increase it. There are merits for some people to doing the dip. And in this case, if this person feels pain in their shoulders performing an exercise, and they're sure they're performing the exercise correctly and they don't get it performing another movement, well, it's pretty obvious to me that that's what they need to go with. Because if you feel pain when performing an exercise, like actual real pain, I don't mean a burn, I'm talking about sharp pains of any type, performing an exercise, you need to change something. You're doing something wrong. Pain is a warning from your body saying, hey, stupid, you're doing something wrong. It's never a good thing. All these people act like pain is a good thing in the gym. No, if you think pain is a good thing, you're going to be snapped up eventually. You shouldn't always feel pain just because you work hard. So if that's the case, the dip makes perfect sense for this person, but you can program it just like you can the bench press. You can program it just like you can an overhead press. It's not like it has a different recovery curve, particularly from the bench press. So if you have a program written to where you're benching 3 days a week, and you wanted to substitute the weighted dip for that, and you can do it safely, and you can pay attention to fatigue management, be very, very careful about failing reps so that your range of motion can be monitored more closely, so that you can keep an eye on those things, and you have a plan on what to do to keep from overextending your shoulders when you do get close to failing a rep. So in other words, if you can perform the exercise safely, then by all means feel free to do so. It can absolutely be a replacement for the bench press for overall development, for chest, anterior delt, tricep development, for overall athleticism in the upper body. You can absolutely replace the bench press, and you can program it very, very similarly. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.